Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. You know we love you in Africa, the Big C tropic, but there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south, in the land of the free, in the home of the brave, on a beautiful January 25th, 2019. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, we're stretching out for the weekend. We got some assimilation of pro football going on this week where they got this little fiasco called the Pro Bowl, where everybody goes out there and walks around and trots around and won't tackle anybody. But, I guess it's what we have to live with prior to the big game next week.
Yeah, it's always a big game next week. It's all fair and love and war. Got some really good things happening in the week before the Super Bowl, or the weekend before the Super Bowl. I should say that the golf course, Tiger Woods down at the Farmers Open in Southern California. On the East Coast, we have a really big game with Golden State playing Boston, but tonight we have Toronto and Houston. Them good boys are tipping off. It's just a great day in sports, Big C. We know there's also different things going on in the world of politics. I do want to say today's segment sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. I know everybody's happy. In California, the weather, if you saw the golf course down in Southern California, Torrey Pines, it's about 70 degrees. And then there's some places on the East Coast that are still cold and snow, and I know down south you guys are getting your rain. So is the weekend for you, is it good for barbecue outside, Big C, like in California, or is it good for hibernating like it is for a lot of places around the country? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is almost hibernation weather. We've got the cold. You think about it. We've had one dry weekend since Thanksgiving here in the South, Charlton.
Wow.
One dry weekend since Thanksgiving. So we've had a deluge of rain. We got a lot of rain that's falling down here consistently. Everything stays green.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go wrong if you want to grow stuff down here, but it's also a little bitterly cold right now, Charlton. So, it's tough to stay healthy.
Yeah, I understand. That's why we all got to work out. I was asking some people out here, there's different diets. People have the New Year's resolution, and people want to go on certain diets. There's something called the keto diet, also the ketone diet, and different kind of diets. But there's also this thing where someone told me some good news that you might relate to. I was in a fitness store, Big C, just talking about how to tighten up a six-pack, because I was only like a four-pack right now, Big C. And the good old boy told me that you can actually eat pork rinds because that's a healthy fat. That sounds like an oxymoron. When have you heard of pork being healthy, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you talk about fats, you're talking about trans fats.
Yeah.
Not what's not healthy. Natural fats, Charlton, have never been harmful to anybody.
Really?
The fat has always been on animal products. It's once stuff gets processed.
Yeah.
It's called trans fat.
Yeah.
And that's what has really hurt the human body, is the fried food that they want to get from these fast food restaurants.
Yeah.
You think about families for years, Charlton, in old days that grew up on farms and processed their own meat, Charlton, made their own, lard from the animals and stuff to fry their products in, Charlton.
Yeah.
You never heard of those people having clogged arteries and being ill all the time, Charlton.
No.
It's the processed stuff that we buy out of the stores.
Yeah.
When we look for something economical, Charlton, it's not always healthy.
Wow.
So it's the trans fat revolution that, got everybody in an upheaval. And then, when you look at even potato chips, they were fried in trans fats.
Yeah.
When you look at pork rinds, Charlton, it's fried in natural fat. It's done a reduction.
Yeah.
From the fat that's on the lining of the hog. So that's the reason why they're healthy. And then when you look at them, Charlton, read the bag. There's less calories than potato chips.
Wow. Well, you just gave me some good news, because I had some family members that were cooking us some pork rind, and boy, did it smell good. I'm out here in California, so a lot of people pretend that they don't eat meat, Big C, but they wear the leather shoes. I always wonder about people that say, we don't eat meat, but they got leather shoes.
Got leather shoes, leather pants, leather jacket, leather purse, leather hat, leather watch band.
Yeah, so as you would say, they come with unclean hands, Big C, but that's how you would call it, unclean hands? I think it's funny. I do want to say congratulations to some runners in Northern California over in the East Bay part of the Bay Area, city called Dublin. They have the Color Run. A lot of good things happening, trying to help people who are in need. And of course, we had some news out of the White House where POTUS was, I think Nancy Pelosi put him in the headlock, Big C, because they only had the government start up for 3 weeks. Now, what would you do if you went out and bought an Escalade and the car only ran for 3 weeks, and then you got to go take it back? Would you be upset with it, Big C? That's what POTUS is talking about. Your thoughts?
Well, Charles, I'm not going to be upset with it. I'm going to tell them, come take it out. I'm not taking it back. So you need to come get this.
Yeah.
You got the lemon law in place. You need to come get this stuff.
Yeah.
But, it's good for America, Charlton,
Yeah.
that the government was open today, Charlton.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't because he wanted to. You got to think about it. They closed down LaGuardia Airport in New York, Charlton. The air traffic controller said it was unsafe.
Yeah.
Because they did not have enough air traffic controllers, Charlton, to direct the planes that were flying around.
Yeah.
And anybody that knows about the New York area, you got JFK, you have LaGuardia, and you have Newark Airport.
Yeah.
All these airports are within about a 40-mile radius of each other, Charlton. So you can think about the air traffic that's in a 40-mile radius of three of the major airports in the United States, Charlton.
Yeah.
But, the reality came to the president and what Nancy Pelosi said, we're not giving you $1.
No.
He didn't get $1, Charlton. So, people like Rush Limbaugh and Ann Coulter right now are really furious that he buckled, that he caved to the Democrats. The Democrats were right, Charlton. You're holding a country ransom for what? This wall, whether this wall starts new construction or whatever, has anybody ever witnessed how long it takes for the Highway Works Department to put an overpass, Charlton, or even lay a section of new freeway, Charlton?
Yep.
How long that takes? You're talking about 2,000 miles of wall that this president is talking about?
Yeah.
Anybody who lives anywhere in the United States, just thinking about something laying down, horizontal, Charlton, not vertical.
Yeah.
Horizontal concrete.
Like a highway,
and you're talking about making a wall 3 to 5 feet thick in spaces, Charlton.
Yeah.
The rebar and the reinforcement and all those things. So him telling his base, Charlton, that putting this wall up is going to keep America safer, Charlton. And I don't even know if anybody ever thought about this, his base. And, I told you, I listened to one of them the other day saying that if you put up this wall, it will stop all the unsolved murders in America.
Yeah, what a joke, yeah.
Does anybody realize that the Rio Grande runs through the border?
Yeah.
That if you talking about damming that up, Charlton, it would become the largest dam in America.
Wow.
And it would flood the state of Texas to start with, okay?
Yeah.
Plus a few other states. So where's all this water going to go when you put up this wall, Charlton, across this river?
Yeah.
This is the lack of thought process that the president and his constituents, have.
Yeah.
His base. Not understanding nature and the flow of water and also the mountainous range that runs through that southern part of the United States. It's not all up north. This is mountain range in the southern part of the United States. But I'm proud of them coming to the conclusion that these people need to be paid, Charlton.
Oh, yeah.
That enough of the jokery and the buffoonery is enough.
Yeah.
It's like, don't hold American citizens hostage because you have an ego.
Yeah, I agree.
Whatever you're talking about doing, Charlton, these people did not buy into that. They did not buy into going to work without a paycheck.
No.
They did not buy into having their bill collectors knocking on their door. Car repo companies come, hey, president said we could pick this up and you can pay it back when you get your check.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that,
Big
he
C.
came to half a sense, because I know he doesn't have his full sense about it, Charlton.
Big C, he said the federal government compete the American people the way he treated his employees. He didn't pay them either, Big C.
Well, that's what it's been, and that's what people didn't understand.
Yeah.
Go back since he's a great businessman, the art of the deal.
Yep.
See how many companies that have been closed up that he had employees in, Shelton,
yeah.
that didn't get paid.
Yeah.
And see how many people that he owed money to
Yeah.
that did not get paid. Look at the lawsuits. As a matter of fact, when he had to pay $25 million for Trump University
Yeah.
for defrauding people,
Yeah.
he just had to close up, Shelton, his endowment because
Yeah.
he was defrauding people. He was using it as an open checkbook.
Yep.
The Taj Mahal Casino in New Jersey.
Yeah.
It's closed. It's a vacant building.
Yeah.
This cavernous place on the Jersey Shore.
I thought Giuliani still went there, Big C. This is Giuliani still. I think somebody said they saw him hanging out there anyway, Big C. You're not.
He might be hanging out there, Charles, but when we've seen how empty Giuliani's mind is of lately, Charles.
Yeah, that's funny. I gotta tell you, I'm really happy for people to experience things. I know that the museum, African American Museum in D.C., you told me you've been there. I haven't been there yet. I do want to see that. Hopefully this summer I'll get the chance to see it. But it's just, I've heard so many people saying you got to go. Ironically, many people, mainstream, have had the chance to experience, not even being flippant, how America has always treated people of color. And people say, well, that civil rights is over. You know, we got civil rights passed. That's in the past. But people coming in from South America, they're also people of color, Big C. There's always been some anathema from our mainstream. And there's even, hopefully, more pushback against that because we don't need this xenophobia behavior, even though we know it's prosperous in the White House. I'm just proud of people, Pelosi standing up to this man that said pretty much that she didn't mean anything. And she's the one grabbing him where he likes to grab people, Big C. And I'm just proud of her standing up and not being like Paul Ryan and a lot of other people that walk around in the Republican Party that say nothing to the people. The 800,000, as you correctly said, you said, no, Charlton, that's 800,000 checks. But the collateral damage, they have families they have to support. One woman. Okay, one woman for the most part, because she could have cowed down. She could have been like a Paul Ryan and said, well, let's just give him what he wants. But she didn't. One woman stood up to this bully, and now 800,000 people get a check. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you have to be proud of Speaker Pelosi when you think about the number of presidents, Charlton, that she has served under. She's the third most powerful person in the United States. She's third in line for the presidency.
Yep.
But she speaks for the people.
Yeah.
That's the thing. She's not speaking for a base, Charlton. She's speaking for the people, the American people.
Yep.
And when you think about all of these people who were sacrificed by the president, who had no sense of sensibility about what it takes to have to live from paycheck to paycheck, Charlton. Yeah. When you think about these government workers who have children that depend on them, Charlton, other family members, husbands, spouses that depend on them, you know, parents that depend on their aid, Charlton.
Yep.
And all of a sudden you say, well, they'll get over it. And then when Wilbur Ross came out being so callous,
what
Charlton,
a joke.
You know, saying, hey, you know, they can go out and get a loan because they're unemployed, so everybody's going to give them a loan. They need to learn how to cut corners.
Yeah.
This guy's a billionaire. He's the only thing he cut was payroll, Charlton. That's the only thing he's ever cut around him.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that this comes back on the president and his staff, Charlton. The American public wasn't going to stand for this buffoonery any longer.
No.
Is that people who could take a stand, Charlton, and in collective numbers, when the air traffic controllers told Charlton, said, no, we're not going to work under these egregious conditions without pay.
Yeah.
Those are the guys that are responsible for more American lives, Charlton, than anybody else any day in America are air traffic controllers.
Yeah.
At any time, Charlton, there's over 5,000 planes in the sky in America.
Wow.
At any time during the day.
Yep.
Think about how many lives they're in control of. And the president didn't care for a long time until they said, we're not going to work any longer.
Yeah, the Air Force One, they have their own air highway where people can't fly in the same flight path, so it didn't bother him. But I'm proud of people coming together and realizing that as a nation, when we put enough shouting out people who are doing wrong, no matter what side you're on, it can change things. I also want to take one moment just to pay homage to several churches in Northern California. Because the clergy, they like to pray for things. They like to pray and work, but they always want to give homage to God. I understand that. But something funny happened in the church, too. As we were praying for the president and Congress to work together, he was in a primarily Caucasian man in a primarily African-American congregation. And as he stood in front of in the pulpit, he said he represented the white church. I just thought, I know maybe people say, well, he didn't really mean anything by it, but there's no partiality in Christ. I know people want to come together, but do you still see that down south where people separate the churches by usually it could be a Catholic church, or Episcopalian, or the Baptist church, or Protestant, or whatever they happen to be, the Lutheran church. But do they still have that slippery slope or that slip of the tongue where they say, well, I represent the white church, Big C, even though Christ was black? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, that's in every part of America where you have segregated churches. And regardless of denomination, Charlton, everyone does not worship together.
Yeah.
You're going to have churches of all denominations. You're going to have Asian, you're going to have black, you're going to have white, you're going to have Hispanic, Charlton. You know, you're going to have Indian churches, Charlton. People are going to go to the church that they want.
Yeah.
And when you sit up in these churches, Charlton, and the congregation is all white, yes, it's a white church.
Yeah.
Just like when you go to a black church and the congregation is all black, it is a black church. I mean, the color of the congregation is not fooling anybody.
Yeah.
And so you speak to those that are in the congregation that you're normally in.
Yeah.
You happen to go to a congregation, Charlton, that is not of your nationality. You don't change your vocabulary.
Isn't that
you
something?
still speak the same way that you always speak.
Yeah.
And so when you sit there and say you're representing the white church, Charlton, that's the same thing you say when you're in your own pulpit.
Yeah. It's funny because Revelation chapter 1, verses 14 and 15, the book of Daniel chapter 7, verse 9, and 10 and 6, and Colossians 1 and 15 describe Christ as a man of color, skin the color of grass. I just think that's odd in 2019 that someone says they represent the white church and Christ is white in their church. But we got to just make that known so people can't stay ignorant. Big C, in the world of sports, Don Maynard, 84th birthday. Maynard played one of the greatest games ever in New York, the Giants versus the Baltimore Colts. As the Giants as a kick returner, he was cut the following season. He played in Canada in the CFL, who was the first free agent for the New York Jets, who went on to win the 1969 Super Bowl, and for those same Colts, Big C. It's amazing how an 84-year-old has so many stories to tell, and I wonder what he thinks of all the talk about, was it really a personal foul when Brady was tapped on the shoulder pads in the game against Kansas City? Was it really a play that was not worthy of a foul, a personal foul, or a pass interference down in New Orleans that so many people are up in arms with? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, you think about Don Maynard, Charlton, and his legacy and history, and not many people know of his legacy. To play in what's called the greatest game ever, Charlton, the Baltimore Colts and the New York Giants in Yankee Stadium, Charlton, back in 1958.
Yeah.
And then and he was a kick returner on that team. Then the following year, he's been released, as you said. He went up to Canada, played in the Canadian Football League, Charlton.
Yeah.
But he was the first free agent signed by what we know as the New York Jets. And at the time, they were the New York Titans, Charlton, in their first year of existence.
Yeah.
And he went on to play in what everybody said was a Super Bowl that integrated professional football, Super Bowl III.
Yeah.
When the New York Jets beat the Baltimore Colts, and, you know, Joe Namath we're going to guarantee a victory.
Yeah.
But you think about it, most of the games that he played in, Charlton, had the Baltimore Colts involved in it.
Yeah.
In those two championship games.
Yeah.
One was a loss, one was a win for the city of New York. But Don Maynard, you know, a speedy wide receiver out of the University of Maryland, Charlton, had an illustrious career. He's made it to the NFL, to Pro Football's Hall of Fame. You know, but to have that legacy in your life, Charlton, to be the only player to play in both of those games, Charlton, is just a wonderful feat for Mr. Don Maynard.
Yeah, Don Maynard, again, just amazing, 84 years young. I heard the great Say Hey Kid today, Willie Mays, talking on a Northern California radio station today, and I love a national treasure. You know, we lost the great Willie McCovey last year, and we've had many of our great Hall of Famers, you know, pass on. But to hear someone like a Willie Mays talking about sports and realizing that he was a little bit younger than my father, and how growing up I heard my grandparents talking about sports. Well, to hear Willie Mays talking about young people, you know, Willie Mays hasn't scored a home run in many, many years, Big C, many moons. But he spoke as if he was still in his 20s because it made him come alive. So guys like Willie Mays and then Don Maynard, I really hope that we get the chance more to hear those people who really paved the way for so many people to talk about how they still love the game, and he says it's one of the reasons he still feels young because of sports. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, a lot of people today don't realize that those elderly players, Charlton, are national treasures.
Yeah.
Because they're walking encyclopedias of sports history.
Yeah.
Is that they can give us a part of the game, Charlton, that no one can ever give. I mean, we can watch all the highlight shows that you want to see. I mean, everybody knows the highlight of Willie Mays making that over-the-shoulder catch, you know, in New York at Evans Field, Charlton. But, you know, the legacy of Willie Mays and what he went through when he came into baseball during a segregated time in America, Charlton, when he was not allowed to live in certain neighborhoods.
Isn't that something?
When they were on the road traveling in National League games, Charlton, that he was not allowed to eat in certain restaurants. Even when Willie Mays was getting into baseball's Hall of Fame, Charlton, in Cooperstown, he couldn't even receive 100% of the votes because of the racist sports writers of the era, Charlton, who did not like him and did not like black people. That's honesty, Charlton. That's not being dishonest. That's not sugarcoating things.
It's real.
That's how it was. There were racist sports writers because anybody who's ever known anything about professional baseball, and you would think that Willie Mays, if anybody, Hank Aaron, Charlton, if anybody, would have gotten 100% vote to get into the Hall of Fame, they would have been unanimous selections. But they were not because of the vitriol of some white writers. Hank Aaron had death threats, Charlton, because he was so great. You think about that. Think about if Tom Brady today, Charlton, was to receive death threats. When he won Super Bowl V, think about it. If he was to get death threats, you're going to have more trophies than Terry Bradshaw. You're going to have more rings than Terry Bradshaw. You're going to have more rings than Joe Montana. Think about that. If he had received death threats from American citizens like Hank Aaron did, Charlton, when he was in pursuit of breaking Babe Ruth's home run record.
That's incredible. And one more shocking thing about Willie, you know how we were talking about the overpriced player? It was Bryce Harper, how he's overpriced, and now the reality is starting to set in that he's not going to get the 400, because there are not that many dumb owners out there anymore. They saw here at one time he's batting about $185. They're not going to give him $300 million. Machado may get the $300 million, and maybe someone will get liquored up and do it too. But Willie Mays, I think he was saying his first year of baseball, he made like $14,000, Big C. $14,000, and maybe one of the greatest players to ever play baseball. We're so lucky that he's a walking legend. And I just love hearing when guys with knowledge that can come on and talk about, and they sound like they're 20s because they're so giddy about what sports did for them. Speaking of being giddy, who do you think, Big C, is the top candidates for NFL Coach of the Year? Will it be Bill Belichick, Sean McVay, or John Gruden? As obviously that's a joke, but Gruden's given the same type of lexicon and speech when they want to praise coaches. They want to put Gruden up there for some reason because it's a media friendship business. But I also think you can look at and I want to say San Diego, but the LA Chargers. I think when you look at Coach of the Year,
Anthony Lynn in San Diego with the Chargers.
Anthony Lynn. And then there's also that, I just want to get your thoughts. Why is Gruden even mentioning that? We know it's because of media, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you realistically have to be serious, Charlton. When you talk about Bill Belichick getting to the Super Bowl, that's a foregone conclusion. He's going to do that just about every year of his coaching career with the Patriots. You think about Sean McVay getting the Rams to the Super Bowl just in his third year, Charlton, as a head coach in the NFL. You know, each one of them got one team to the Super Bowl. You talk about Anthony Lynn, he was eliminated by Bill Belichick and the Patriots. But think about John Gruden, Charlton, for real. I mean, here's a guy who got two franchises to the playoffs this year. I mean, be realistic. No other coach did that. He helped the Dallas Cowboys win the NFC East, made the playoffs. He helped the Chicago Bears win the NFC North, got to the playoffs. Even though he's coaching in the AFC, Charlton, he got two NFC teams to the playoffs. No other coach did that, Charlton.
Well, even
so you have to give John Gruden some consideration as coach of the year in the NFL.
I think even Anderson, the running back for the Rams, he was on the Raider roster also.
He cut him also. So not only did he get two franchises to the playoffs, he got a player to the Super Bowl.
He had a
a hand on three scenarios, Charlton, that no other coach in the NFL had this year.
Yeah.
To get two franchises in the NFC to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And get a running back to the Super Bowl.
Well,
with players that you had on your roster.
Well, let's look at Crabtree. Crabtree played for the Ravens. He was in the playoffs, Big C. Janikowski, the kicker for Seattle, he was in the playoffs. They all were kicked out of Oakland.
So I stand corrected. He got 4 franchises to the playoffs.
Yeah.
He helped 4 franchises into the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I have to give John Gruden a nod as coach of the year. I mean, nobody else can hold a candle to him right now, Delta. He's the first coach in the history to have a losing record that didn't win 5 games and get 4. Think about it. He won 4 games this year, Charlton.
Yeah.
4 games. And he helped 5 franchises into the playoffs.
Yep, and now I
think about that. I mean, that's a heck of a stat to have on your resume.
What a bargain.
But you only win 4 games for the team you're coaching.
Yeah.
But with players that you got rid of, you helped 5 other franchises get to the playoffs.
That's incredible. So even Westgate Casino in Las Vegas, they placed over 1,000 bets on the Super Bowl 53 coming up in Atlanta, which is a gorgeous city. I think when Atlanta, I know it gets a lot of rain, but that city's so beautiful. And when they showed over one of the sports shows, they panned over the top, and I hope the Super Bowl does this too. That stadium opens up, I believe, because what I saw on TV, they were panning over the top of it, and you can see the downtown skyscrapers over Atlanta with all that green, the green buildings, not the green building, but the green landscaping with the trees. It really is like a city out of Wakanda in the movie Black Panther, Big C, that got shut out in Hollywood for voting, even though it's one of the highest grossing movies in the history of the universe. They didn't get many awards mentioned for out of Hollywood. But I think when you think about that bet, there's so much betting going on. And I know as far as, I think a lot of the money's going on New England, but one of the officials in the game, every time he revs, the Rams have won. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you talk about the prop bets that are being levied in Vegas. There are over 1,000 prop bets that you can lay money on the Super Bowl. You can lay from the type of shoes that a player is going to wear, Charlton.
Yeah.
You know, to the number of pads he may have on. Actually, how many times they show an individual's wife, Charlton.
Yeah.
What color the Gatorade is going to be. Who's going to catch the first pass. Who's going to drop the first pass. Who's going to get the first carry.
Yeah.
Who's going to have a first carry for more than 10 yards, Charlton. You know, the first touchdown. Anything can be bet on in a prop bet in Las Vegas. And you think about Westgate Casino, Charlton. What they're doing is fishing for money because there's a sucker born every day.
Yeah.
Casinos are not going to put up all these bets thinking that they're going to lose them.
Yeah.
You know, it comes down to who will even have the last play in the first quarter, Charlton.
Yeah.
The first play. All of these things you can bet on. The first sack, the first penalty, and what type of penalty it will be, Charlton.
Yeah.
So when you think about Joe Perry, who's going to be the lead official in this game, Charlton, and you talked about games that he officiates, Charlton, that the Los Angeles Rams are 7-0 under those games, Charlton, and when he's done the New England Patriots, they haven't fared so well. They're 9-5.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why all the early money went on New England. In the first week of betting, there was 90% of the money that was laid on New England, Charlton, based on those stats.
Yeah.
But they're looking at the spread because New England was getting points.
Yeah.
You know, they're saying, hey, if you're giving New England points, I got to take New England.
Something's up with that, Big C. So people were asking, I was talking to some sports partners today. We have a sports app called Sports Pro Hero, which we give to athletes in schools and universities. They can use it as a fundraiser, but even every athlete, they can use it to fundraise for whatever cause they're looking at. We're launching that this month, actually, after the Super Bowl. It's going to be February. But when you think about all of the things that people bet on, it really is a way to show how great this country is, that for guys that are dumb enough to put their money out there, they can. There was a program that I saw, the Super Bowl down in Tempe, Arizona, actually Glendale, Seattle versus New England. And this is a warning for a lot of people that think you're going to get a good deal on a ticket. There's some good old boys that spent like $4,000 on some tickets, and they were phony. And they were down there trying to get them to let them into the stadium, but obviously it doesn't work that way. And just give me your thoughts as people bet on different things, Big C. If you're out there trying to get tickets that are scalped, you don't know if that stuff is real. They got ways to measure against it, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the NFL has such a security banner, Charlton, versus bogus tickets. So
Yeah.
they help people out, Charlton. Yeah, I mean, there are sites that you can go on and buy tickets.
Yeah.
You know, the cheapest ticket right now for this game, Charlton, is probably around $2,200 to $2,500 they're talking about.
Yeah.
But, you know, there was a thing that was done, Charlton, through analytics. They said if the Saints and the Chiefs had a major Super Bowl, Charlton,
Yeah.
it would have been the most expensive Super Bowl ticket of all time. They
Really?
said tickets would have gone between $5,000 and $10,000, Charlton, to get into this game.
Wow.
And they would have probably brought an extra 200,000 people into the Atlanta area, Charlton, just milling around the city, because it's been 50 years since the Chiefs have been in the Super Bowl, Charlton, Super Bowl IV down in New Orleans,
Yeah.
when they beat the Minnesota Vikings. And Charlton, the New Orleans Saints, all of those people from New Orleans would have gone over to Atlanta, Charlton.
Yeah.
We know that they have a huge population there since Katrina.
Yeah.
A lot of people were displaced into the Atlanta area. But just that rivalry, Charlton, of the two cities
Yeah.
that they have, you know, that is a bitter rivalry. It's almost like a college rivalry when you think about the Atlanta Falcons and the New Orleans Saints, Charlton. They genuinely hate each other as organizations.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be just a great place. Atlanta's a gorgeous city. It's known as the Black Mecca. People think it's Washington, D.C., but it really is Atlanta, a progressive city. I hope that the NFL brass will realize how many business people there are in Atlanta that are men of color and really re-examine how you get a job in the NFL as a head coach. I really hope that they can do that. We've had black mayors in Atlanta, but it's hard to find more than one or two coaches that are consistently NFL coaches for more than 3 years. They might get a chance, but it's like one and done is a joke, Big C. I hope they can really change that. I want to say sports is a billion-dollar industry. Boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. For every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer league, when you reach out to them, tell them Big C sent you. Big C, when you look at NFL, we're talking about how that story you just told, if the Chiefs and the Saints would have gotten in, tickets would have been higher and more people would have attended. Well, as far as fines, you look at one of the defensive back, Coleman, fined $26,000 for targeting helmet to helmet, the hit on Lewis. I don't think it was really that much of a targeting hit. I mean, we've seen Vontaze Burfict. That's targeting what he did to one of the Steelers receivers, where it's really helmet to helmet. This was helmet and pads. It wasn't just helmet only. And I think it was the way to cover up for the egregious call. And also he ran his mouth by saying, yeah, I knew it was a foul, but they didn't call it. So I'm like, yeah. So he brought more attention to himself. Unlike Brady, the tuck rule, he knew it was a fumble, but he didn't say, yeah, the officials missed the call. So he has to learn some politics. Do you think that fine is offensive to the knowledge of people who know it's just a cover-up? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, no, Jonathan, I don't think it's offensive. It was warranted. I mean, it actually was targeting. I said that during the game with many people I was sitting around. He actually committed 3 penalties on the play, Charles.
Yeah.
He committed illegal contact. He committed targeting. He committed pass interference. There was an opportunity to throw 3 flags in that instance, Jonathan. And if you look, you can see the head snap back of Lewis, the receiver of the Saints, Jonathan.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the targeting was justified.
Yeah.
The penalty, you always are going to get a penalty for targeting, whether they throw the flag or not. Do you see that throughout the season? Players get fined in situations where the league feels that it's targeting.
Yeah.
And so they punish him accordingly, Charlton. The commissioner cannot go back and alter a game, even though I know there's a rule, whatever, in the book. Look, in the book,
yeah,
about something that alters the game. Charlton, that's about having a storm, the lights go out at a stadium or something like that, having it replay. It's not over a non-penalty call.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the league has basically said what they're going to say on that issue. You know, Goodell will address it when they have the State of the League, you know, the day before the Super Bowl, that weekend,
yes,
as he addresses the media. It will come out. But that penalty, non-penalty call, Charlton, was what happened. I mean, it's like I said, everybody's forgotten about Bountygate.
Yeah.
You know, with the New Orleans Saints, where they lost the GM, head coach, defensive coordinator. and middle linebacker, Charlton, for some egregious acts.
Yep. And
this was a human error. The NFL has admitted that they made a human error in the game by not throwing the flag.
Yeah.
But think about every time they don't throw a flag, Charlton, when we see something occur in a football game. So, wow, how could they miss that?
Yeah.
You know, you have replay for a reason. The only people that get replay right, Charlton, is Major League Baseball now and the NBA.
Yeah.
Because they will go to the monitor and look on it. When they think they missed a call, Charlton, on somebody being out or safe at a base, they go back and review that.
Yeah.
They don't leave it to the human eye because the human eye makes mistakes.
Yeah.
You see the NBA all the time going to the sideline, even college basketball, where they're reviewing. Was it a foul? Was it an intentional foul, Charlton? Was he on the line? Was it a 2-point? Was it a 3-point shot?
Yeah.
Was he in the act of shooting? The NFL has that ability, Charlton. It's just like when they go to New York to get, the replay.
Yeah.
They have the opportunity. The NFL will make this change. When you think about all the rule changes in the NFL, Charlton, something has to occur that's egregious before the NFL acts on it.
Yeah.
It started back with the Holy Roller, with the Oakland Raiders and the San Diego Chargers, Charlton.
Yeah.
When that was a fumble, and they pushed it into the end zone. That was an egregious act. Think about it. Think about what that would have done to the Raiders organization if that had been overturned at the time.
Yeah.
That cry goes back decades, Charlton, back to the 70s with the Raiders. You think about even more recently with Calvin Johnson not being called a catch. Then it was Dez Bryant not being called a catch in a playoff game, Charlton.
Yeah.
So you think about those things. It took the NFL a little longer to change that rule, Charlton, from what was considered a catch.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Then they came out at the beginning of this year, Charlton, because people were complaining over the last 2 years about the number of quarterbacks that were injured.
Yeah. From
defensive linemen punishing them by driving them into the ground.
Yeah.
Now, if you sneeze in this neighborhood, you get a penalty.
You get a penalty for sneezing.
So it took the NFL a little while to make that change.
Yeah.
And players adjusted to it when they made the change. The same thing is going to happen with this, Charlton.
Yeah.
What they're going to do is offer up a review. But the coaches already have a challenge flag, okay?
Yep.
They're going to offer them one more challenge in the games. I guarantee you, watch this. If not this season coming up, Charlton, the following season.
Yeah.
The coaches will get an extra challenge to challenge a missed penalty. That's what they're going to get. That's what they're going to offer.
Yeah.
It's not going to be reviewable by the officials, but the coaches are going to have an opportunity to challenge it. And if they miss the challenge, Charlton, it's going to cost them a timeout.
Yeah, I think that's a good solution. I think it may take a couple years to get that. We'll have to see because you can't have a perfect game. I don't really think we want a perfect game. It's good to have something to talk about. But speaking of almost perfect, this is for all the guys. I told you I went to one of these fitness gyms, and they were telling you how to get that six-pack back and how you eat right and how you exercise, and I realized...
down the beverage aisle in the grocery store.
I understand that.
There's a lot of six-packs, man.
I understand, but now I understand that I can have pork rinds. You know how happy that makes me, Big C? I was passing them by. I can at least have a pork rind at least once a month. But something that gets better with age. You look at 46 years of age, again, and we started talking about the Say Hey Kid, how he's in his 80s, and he was talking about how he loved the game of sports and how it's done so much for his life. It still makes him feel like he's a young man. Well, because of that, he's still up in age, and he's very lucid. I love listening to the Say Hey Kid speak, Willie Mays. Well, 46-year-old kicker Adam Vinatieri of the Indianapolis Colts, Big C, he signed a one-year contract. This is 24th season, 24th in the NFL, trying the longest career ever. Not only is he coming back, he's still one of the top kickers in the league, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he is a marvelous kicker. He's had a wonderful career. He was the mainstay of the Patriots' first 3 Super Bowl wins, Charlton.
That's right.
He won those with kicks, with field goal kicks. So when you think about Adam Vinatieri, his legacy is far to what the Patriots are, Charlton, having 5 Super Bowl victories. But him signing that contract today, Charlton, which will now match the length of his career in the NFL of a former Chicago Bear and Oakland Raider, Charlton, named in Houston Oilers, named George Blanda.
Yeah.
George Blanda clocked 24 years in the NFL, Charlton, as a kicker and a quarterback.
Yeah.
So he did dual duty in the NFL. He finished his career in 1976 as a kicker for the Raiders and the backup to Kenny Stabler.
Yeah.
But Adam Vinatieri, who is now Charleston Pro Football's all-time leading scorer, will tack one more year onto that illustrious career.
Yeah, I really think when you mention the name of George Blanda being out here in the Bay Area, you realize those names, they mean something. Just like Willie Mays. There are times when it's a shame. I was talking to someone today about the Raiders leaving, and they're taking that history with them, but they can't take the memories with them. That still belongs to the people in the Bay Area. Big C, as we jump into bouncing the ball around in the world of college basketball. In men's college basketball tonight, number 5 Michigan versus Indiana, and Buffalo puts its number 14 ranking on the line tonight at Kent State. Big Ten basketball is great. I still think we have a lot better basketball played in the southern part of the state, but Indiana, that used to be Bobby Knight territory until he was brutalizing kids and they came out and they lost his job. But Michigan, Indiana, namesake, that's a great game, but it should be a big win for Michigan. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, Michigan State is up on top of they're second in the Big Ten, Charleston. They're right behind Michigan.
Yeah.
Which that state rivalry with Charleston is going to be manifested when those two teams get together being ranked, you know, in the top 10 in the country. But Michigan State, and you think about Indiana, Charleston, it doesn't have the luster that program once had, Charleston. So, you know, it's going to take some while to get on back on top of the heat. But you don't always stay there, Charleston, but it's a time for rebuilding, and with the parity in college basketball, it would be great to see Indiana get back to those glory years, Charleston.
Yeah. Buffalo, and then you have Kent State. Buffalo, obviously, anytime you're up in New York, you're thinking Syracuse. You're not thinking Buffalo. But they're number 14. I don't think if they played in a bigger conference, they'd be number 14. But if you get the ranking, you have the ranking, so hopefully they'll have a good showing in their game. I want to swing it out to the West Coast, and I want to jump on women's basketball. The Pac-12 has 3 ladies teams in the top 10 playing tonight. Number 6, Stanford down on the farm versus Colorado. You have number 5, Oregon playing Washington State, and number 9, Oregon State playing Washington. It's amazing that the women's basketball on the Pac-12, they're more, I guess, noteworthy of a game than the men's. I remember the days of Cheryl Miller down at USC. Also the days up at Stanford when they already had Vandermeer on the market, on the farm, and she had them always playing, it seemed, for Final Four games. But the women have really turned the tide. So when people say the Pac-12 is not recruiting top athletes, they can't say that for women's sports. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you think about when you used to hear about men's basketball on the West Coast, Charleston, in the 70s and in the 80s and even the 90s.
Yeah.
It was about men's basketball, in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Now it's women's basketball is dominating the landscape, Charleston. Those ladies have really risen those programs to new heights. Stanford has always been a prominent program under Vandermeer out there, Charleston.
Yeah.
But when you look at the rise of Oregon State as well as Oregon, Charleston, being ranked in the top 15 in the country, Charleston, it's excellent strides for West Coast women basketball.
Yeah, but that's a good point. But when you look at the Fighting Irish, what they did last night, and last night they had gone on to Knoxville, knocked off the University of Tennessee Lady Volunteers 77-62. They remain the number 1 team in the country. That game was close for a while, but I still see that level of intensity. Whenever you see a game played down in Tennessee, they have as many people as NBA stadiums. I just love the environment. Notre Dame riding high, but UConn's waiting in the wings. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you just think about the ride that the University of Tennessee has been on a 2-day run, Charlton.
Yeah.
Their men's team ranked number 1 in the country, was taken to the wire by Vanderbilt University, Charlton, just the night before.
Yep.
Then the ladies team coming in playing the University of Notre Dame, the number 1 women's team in the country, Charlton.
Yeah.
From a fan's perspective, you couldn't have had a better 2 nights being a University of Tennessee fan, Charlton, and alumnus, having your teams really in the top 2 college games in the country on back-to-back nights, men and women.
Yeah, I think that's very true. So obviously there's a lot great out there for the women, giving them equal time because we know they deserve it. And speaking of equal time, Big C, going into the world of the NBA, you have the Golden State Warriors. The game that I really want to see is when they go over to Boston and play that game, but that's on the weekend. Last night, Golden State beat Washington They beat the Wizards 126-118. Boogie Cousins in double figure scoring, and once again 8 for 12 on the floor, 17 total points. The Warriors led by Steph Curry with 38 points. Curry is such a Harlem Globetrotter in his dribble. And there's so many people that say, who has better handles, Curry or is it Kyrie Irving? Or could it be anyone else in the league that could come up with that kind of dribble? Give me your thoughts last night. I think Cousins, you don't even notice Cousins because he blends in. When he played in Sacramento, also down in New Orleans, he was the guy that wanted the ball in the low post. Right now, if he can't run the floor, he can't get the ball, but he's running the floor with the Golden State Warriors. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you got to look at the Golden State Warriors. They're starting to feed Boogie Cousins.
Yeah.
They've incorporated him into what they do. You know, people said what they were trying to figure out and position their teams to be like the Golden State Warriors over the last 2-3 years in the NBA. Everybody was trying to play small ball.
Yeah.
Now the Golden State Warriors have switched up on them. And they said, okay, everybody wants to play small ball. Let's get a big man that can play.
Yeah.
So they have a big front line. When you think about the Golden State Warriors front line, Charlton, you got a 7-foot Boogie Cousins. You got a 6'11" Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
You got a 6'7" Draymond Green. You can't match up with these players, Charlton, if you're another team in the NBA, because who do you play Boogie Cousins with that can run with him, Charlton? Who do you play Kevin Durant with, Charlton?
Yeah.
You basically have two centers that can knock down three-point shots when you look at those players. Then you got some assassins named Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, Charlton.
Yeah.
And then you got the straw that stirs the drink named Draymond Green.
Yeah.
Okay? That nobody can defend, and he can play anybody on the floor.
Yeah.
So when you look at the Golden State Warriors, Charlton, just when you think you figured them out from an NBA analytics and coaching perspective, Charlton,
yeah,
they changed the face of the game. They said, okay, we're going to go back to the traditional big man, putting him in the paint.
Yep.
And now you figure out what we're doing.
Figure out what to do. And you know, also when you think about that, the Warriors, when they want to rest Boogie Cousins, because he'll probably get up into the 30, 35 minutes by the playoffs coming around, Big C. Right now he's getting about 20 minutes a game. Kevon Looney, who's been playing pretty solid basketball, when you sit down Cousins, he comes off the bench. That just shows you how deep they are, Big C. When you look at the game being played, Curry, I haven't seen, well, maybe I have on his own team, Thompson, the guy who doesn't need a dribble. This is almost, and you can't say that you haven't seen this before, because I saw some great Laker teams back in the day. You know, two different versions of Laker teams that also won championships. Also, the Celtics had some teams similar like that, not as talented, but able to win championships. And then the year the Houston Rockets with the King, the Dream Olajuwon, they had that type of dynamic. We know the Miami Heat, when LeBron James was down there, they won. They had kind of that all-star team feel too. The San Antonio Spurs, maybe not as flashy, but they had that all-star feel. So this talk of this being the greatest assembly of players, I still think you got to go back to the Lakers. That's just my opinion. But would you say that this lineup could compare with some of the greatest Laker teams of all time? Big C, Kareem and Magic. Your thoughts?
Oh yeah, Charlton. This team that you see today, Charlton, the Lakers would have gotten shot out the gym.
Really?
They could not shoot from the perimeter with this Golden State Warrior team, Charlton. The Lakers may have had universal height across the court with Kareem.
Yeah.
But I think Boogie Cousins would have been able to play decent enough against Kareem, you know, in his career, Charlton, that Kareem would have gotten his points.
Yeah.
But when you look at the matchups across the court, Charlton, you know, you got Kevin Durant. They didn't have an answer for Kevin Durant. I mean, AC Green would have been the best to try to play him. James Worthy, that's a wash between he and Draymond Green.
Yeah.
In the backcourt, Magic could not have defended Klay Thompson. He was not quick enough to defend him. Byron Scott, Steph Curry would have got his shot off on it. None of those players on the Laker team, Charlton, could shoot with the Warriors that are in existence today, because they would have just shot the long ball on them all night long.
Yeah.
They would have ran on them, Charlton. They would have ran Kareem off the court. He would not have been able to compete, Charlton. They would have had to take Kareem out. Boogie Cousins, I mean, see, with the Lakers, they would have played small ball.
Yeah.
And the Lakers wouldn't have had a chance playing small ball with him, though. The only chance they would have was having Kareem on the floor, on the court to block the middle. This team right now, Charlton, you're looking probably at the best backcourt in NBA history over any stretch.
Yeah.
You look at a 5-year stretch with any NBA team, Charlton, modern time, past times, Charlton, there's not a 5-year stretch of any backcourt. It's like we talked about Sammy Sosa the other night, having the greatest 5-year run of home runs in Major League Baseball history, averaging 60 home runs a year.
Amazing.
Look at what this Golden State Warrior team, Charlton, has averaged over the last 5 years, and ironically, they just got better.
Let me take you to a dumb matchup, because we talk about you can't touch people now. Go back to the Detroit Bad Boys. Could they have posed a series where they could have manipulated a win or manufactured a win with Lane Beer and Billups? Because they can, and they could be physical, though. You could get them. They had D-Rod on defense. Would they have been blown out? Would that be a four-game sweep? Or could they pull 5 or 6 games out of that series? Your thoughts?
That team, Charlton, was a setup team. They were a half-court basketball team. That was a team that would not been able to run with the work. That's what people are not understanding, the athleticism of this team right now, Charlton. Every era has great teams.
Yeah.
The Bad Boys were a great team, Charlton, but they were not an efficient team. They were a physical team, Charlton, and they would beat people up physically.
Yeah.
And teams that they played the same style of basketball. When you think about the NBA East, the Knicks were that type of team, Charlton. The Pacers were that type of team. The Bulls, the Detroit Pistons, even the Celtics, they were all physical teams, Charlton. They were not built on athleticism. They were built on half-court offenses.
Yeah.
And so when a team is going to make you run for 48 minutes, when those teams only wanted to run for 20, 25 minutes, Charlton, they take your legs away from you. And you think about the depth on the bench now, Charlton, when they bring players off the bench, they can knock down the three.
Yeah.
Detroit had a guy, Vinny Microwave Johnson, that they brought off the bench.
Yeah.
But they only had one bench scorer, Charlton. They didn't have 2 or 3 as you get in the modern-day NBA.
Yes, that's amazing. Big C, get some NBA anathema. Michael Jordan's the great Chicago Bulls, the team that set the record for winning. This Warriors team, I know they got to win it first, because we saw the same type of team when the Lakers went and lost to Detroit, but that's because Kobe and Shaq were having some problems. They had the great Karl Malone. The chemistry was off. Would this team have swept the great Chicago Bulls team, or would they have been a series with the great Michael Jordan? Your thoughts?
I don't know if they would have swept the team, Charlton, but I think they would have taken the series 4-2.
Yeah.
The Bulls had a couple shooters on the team. Mike was going to get his shot off.
Yeah.
And, it was all depending on how the officials were going to officiate the game.
Exactly.
I think Draymond Green would have been a good matchup for Mike.
Yeah.
I look at Pippen. They would have most likely been trying to pay Pippen on Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
There's no guard by either Paxson or Steve Kerr that could have played against Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Or even B.J. Armstrong.
Yeah.
None of those guys could have guarded Steph Curry, Charlton.
That's a good point.
And then they had no answer for Boogie Cousins because there was a rotation in the middle. Dennis Rodman couldn't play defense against everybody.
Yeah.
They were going to put him on one guy.
Yeah.
That was Durant. Other than that, Charlton, everybody else was going to have a free run offensively.
Oh, well, that would be. You can see it in NBA 2K where you can match errors against errors. So are you saying you think we're seeing the greatest assembly of a basketball team in the history of the universe? Big C, your thoughts?
I'm saying right now, Charlton, is over the last 5 years, this is as good a 5-year run as you've ever seen with an organization, Charlton.
Yeah.
We know the mishap that cost them from having consecutive championships in the one series that they lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers. That was a financial thing for the NBA.
Yeah.
They needed to get that win in Cleveland, Charlton, because the NBA didn't want to see the Warriors just run through the league. Just like everybody says they don't want to see the Patriots run through the league. If the game is played on the court or on the field by the athletes and the officials are not being involved in it, Charlton, then there's no way you can beat the Warriors.
That's a very good point,
That's what you're looking at. When they lost to Cleveland, how do you kick a player out of a championship series, Charlton? You suspend the 4 game. You don't do that.
No, you don't.
That's never been heard of before, Charlton. You get suspended the first week of the upcoming season.
Yeah.
But you don't get suspended in the playoffs, Charlton.
Especially when you're not kicked out of that game. Russell Westbrook had a monstrous game last night for OKC. 23 points, 17 rebounds, 16 assists, and a 122-116 win over the Pelicans. A reporter asked him a question. He said, so how'd you feel? Did you feel that you were in the zone? He said, I wake up in the zone, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, that's the confidence of a an athlete.
Yeah.
When you think about the questions that reporters ask players, football, basketball, baseball, track and field, hockey, you know, it's like, so what made you think you could make that shot?
Yeah.
The hell, I was on the court, okay? I raised up and shot it. That's what made me think I could. Do you think that you're in a zone?
Yeah.
The zone is my employment.
Yeah.
Are you in a zone when you come out and ask a question as a reporter?
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, it never ceases to amaze me how dumb the questions are from these so-called intelligent reporters, Charlton.
Yeah.
What did you see that, you know,
that's all opening.
They asking a player, what did he see? I see the same thing I see every time I walk out on the playing arena.
Yeah.
I see my opponent.
Yeah.
I see the common goal that I had is to beat that bus down.
Yeah.
What did you see when you saw me make that shot?
Yeah.
That's the question you need to ask yourself.
That's funny when you in the zone. It's like, yeah, I mean, he said, I wake up in the zone, Big C. Tonight, Sacramento Kings at the Memphis Grizzlies.
Maybe he was asking me whether he had AutoZone parts store or something.
Maybe he was, Big C. Washington at Orlando, New York at Brooklyn. We have Miami at Cleveland. We have the L.A. Clippers at Chicago, Toronto or to Houston. We have Detroit at Dallas. But I gotta ask you this question: Miami at Cleveland, of course. You're thinking, and just a couple more: Detroit, Dallas. We have Charlotte, Milwaukee, Phoenix, and Denver. I want to go back to the Toronto and Houston game. Kawhi Leonard back in the state of Texas, and then Harden. No one's gonna stop Harden because the NBA, they'll let him take 4 steps, and we all know that's true. And I like it that way. I don't want to see him being held at taking, 2 or 3 steps to the basket because that would take away his game. I just think they should let more guys do it. We got to be honest. We like to see a high-scoring game. We do love seeing athletes. This guy is trending so high, even Vegas is putting him, is he going to score, over 50 in a game? Give me your thoughts on, will he show that he's a better player? Let me put it this way. Is he the best player that's ever played in the state of Texas? I mean, at least in the last 5 years with Kawhi coming back. Mix of your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, I mean, he's probably the best player to ever play there. I mean, we know the great Hakeem Olajuwon, Charlton. Kawhi Leonard was never thought of as a dominant offensive player when he was in San Antonio. But, you talk about James Harden and his annals in the NBA, Charlton, and his scoring paralysis.
Yeah.
And even tonight, the over-under from Kawhi with your friends down in Vegas is 46.5.
Yeah.
But, I saw the great Larry Bird today, Charlton, in passing.
Yeah.
And, when I saw Larry, it made me remember this point, that what he said at Madison Square Garden, Charlton.
Yeah.
When I was there watching the game against the Knicks. And he asked the ref, after he got his second foul.
Yeah.
Do you think the fans came here to see you call flipping fouls, or they came here to see you score flipping points?
Yeah, those flipping fouls.
Larry didn't get another foul against him in the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And Larry was a bully and a trash talker his entire career.
Yeah.
James Harden is a trash talker.
Yeah.
But when people go to an arena when the Rockets are playing, what do they go to see?
Yeah.
They go to see James Harden score over 30, 40 points a game, Charles. They could care less about who else is on the Rockets team.
Yeah.
But James Harden has become much-watched TV in the NBA, Charlton. And the NBA has embraced James Harden.
Yeah.
That's why he has the step rule in his favor, Charlton, in the NBA.
Yeah.
Because, when you look at the Adam Silver is there for entertainment.
Yeah.
That's what the NBA is about.
He's doing it right.
And so they're going to get the most out of the entertainment dollar that they can, Charlton, for the fans.
Yeah.
So they're not going to sit there and hear traveling on James Harden. They want to hear 3. That's what they want to hear.
Yeah, I like
that. And so James Harden is going to get the benefit of the doubt because it's a marketing tool. It has everybody paying attention to what James Harden is doing with his feet, as well as the points that he scores, Charles.
Yeah, I really love when we see mano and mano because that's what we like as competition. We don't want to see everybody equal. No one wants to see anybody equal at all. We don't want to see equal paychecks. We don't want to see anything equal. We want to see competition. And if competition makes you equal, granted. Give me your thoughts in the last few minutes, Big C. This East Coast, West Coast thing, media-wise, we already have it in the NBA with the Lakers, and then we have the Celtics from back in the 80s, okay? And then for a time, we kind of went to San Antonio versus everybody else, from the Eastern Conference. The NBA would love it, and they know they would love it, if we get a Boston Celtics versus Golden State Warriors NBA Finals, East Coast, West Coast, kind of like we have in football with the Rams and the Patriots. The game tomorrow with Curry going up against Kyrie Irving, that's how it's built. We know it's both teams. But is there any intrigue? Can Boston even keep up? Unless Golden State has a mishap, I don't see them staying within double digits of them. I mean, I don't see them staying. It should be a double-digit win, but they're on the road in Boston. You know how officiating goes. If the streak came to an end, you have to say it would be anathema. But even it's a sexy matchup, though, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it's a sexy matchup on paper, Charleston, but it's a mismatch on the playing court.
Yeah.
The Boston Celtics are not the team that the Golden State Warriors are, Charleston. They can't match up with them physically. I mean, when you think about what the Warriors are doing right now, the Boston Celtics keeps their best players on the bench. When you look at Rozier, you look at Tatum, and you look at Brown.
Yeah.
They should all be in the starting lineup with the Celtics.
Yeah.
They could compete with the Warriors, Charleston, with those three players in the lineup. But when you're sitting there and you're saying you got to play Kyrie Irving, you got to play Gordon Hayward, Charleston, you take away from the growth of those young players that got you to the Eastern Conference Final last year, Charleston.
Yeah.
With the Celtics even having any aspiration of getting to the Eastern Final, so they're in fifth place in the East right now.
Yeah.
You got to think about Milwaukee, you got to think about Toronto, you got to think about Philadelphia, Charleston. Those are the dominant teams in the East right now that Boston is looking at.
Yeah.
They got to get out of the East to even think about playing the West other than just games throughout the season.
Yeah.
But right now, Charleston, they're not on the same plane that the Golden State Warriors are.
I agree. And only image-wise in history, it's a great history to talk about. But right now, this might be the greatest team ever assembled. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charleston, we're looking at some NBA games tonight, but we got the Pro Bowl that's coming up this weekend, Charleston. We get a chance to see all these NFL greats down in Orlando, Charleston, going out, making a mockery of the game for fun.
Yep.
But they're getting paid.
Yeah.
But, it's a paid vacation.
Yeah, it's fun.
You got some players that are there that are frustrated not making it to the Super Bowl, Charleston.
Yeah.
But they're still going out for the joy of the fans, Charleston, to put on a performance. So I'm happy that the guys get a chance to play a game that they can take it easy in and not really go out there and risk injury, Charleston.
Yes.
Just another week of relaxation prior to the big game next Sunday in Atlanta.
Prior to the big game next Sunday in Atlanta, also Tiger Woods -2 down at Torrey Pines. Always great when Tiger makes the cut. I just think everything's great in the sports universe. I'm really happy that some of our federal workers are going to get paid again. And I hope they continue getting paid more than just 3 weeks. You can also get paid, too, every Monday through Friday at 5 to 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. As we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.